Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to start off giving all honor, glory, and praise and worship to our power. YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. The honors to our apostle, Earl, the Bishop's Great Millstone, rule well. Peace, citation to the hopeful elect. It's your brother Kadash, representing GMS branch here in Cleveland, Lord willing to bring out an edifying lesson through the spirit and power of YAHAWASHI. And this is like my fourth time trying to do this damn lesson, bro. Shit is so vexing. A lot of lessons I've been not able to do on this phone because of the storage. So I've been trying to clean my storage up. All right, so here we go. Lord willing, it's edifying. Breaking news. Breaking news. Just real quick. There has been what is this? I don't know what that was. Trump calls DC shooting of National Guard members an act of terror. Okay. So, breaking news, 2 National Guard members are in critical condition after they were shot in what officials describe as a targeted ambush, all right, near the White House on Wednesday. First of all, how did the shooter get this close to the White House, and in terms of being able to set up and do these different this damage? Okay, how is that even possible? Obviously, it's a famous quote. I'm gonna get real quick. A quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt. In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Okay? So, like FDR just said, Franklin D. Roosevelt, nothing happens in politics by accident. You can bet it was planned that way. So we can bet that this was planned as well. Okay? Troops were a part of a high visibility patrol. The suspect, who was in custody, was also shot and subdued by other guard members nearby. So yeah, man, breaking news, just something real quick. Breaking news. You know, as you can see, 2 National Guard members, excuse me, have been shot. He's calling this an act of terror. The T word, the big T, the nasty T. All right, and he's using this as another means to issue other things that they want to issue. All right, National Guard. What's past the National Guard? Let's see. So they gave us a little something. This, you know, let's see what they gave. What comes after their National Guard? So what I typed into the chat. It says, if you mean in the military chain of command, the National Guard is part of the reserve components. Above it in authority are state government. All right. Governor controls the Guard during state duty. Department of Defense, U.S. Army or U.S. Air Force when federally activated. President final authority. So let me see. Let me try this. What is the military chain of command? Yeah, they're not understanding what I'm trying to ask. They're not trying to give me what I'm looking for, but I'm looking for, because basically what is this? What is this? The National Guard as a branch of the U.S. military. Okay. All right. Let me see. Let me try another way. Then we're gonna move on. In a situation, in a crisis situation, what branch of the military is sent out if the National Guard branch cannot maintain control? Let's get it as a handful. Okay, this is kind of what I'm looking for. Let's see what they got. It says, all right, here's the correct order. So we want to find out who comes after the National Guard. National Guard is being deployed. Each state has National Guard members. All right. I think that's the ROTC program, if I'm not mistaken, that you sign up for in high school and college, and then you move up the branch and the ladder and so forth. But it says National Guard first responders, controlled by the governor unless federally activated, used for riots, natural disasters, civil unrest, etc. So the National Guard, what you have right now on the scene, all right, on the scene, it says these are who's on the scene, National Guard members. It says if the National Guard cannot maintain control, which is what they're pushing, not even a man. Damn. So they brought the National Guard in to maintain civil unrest, all right, or to maintain riots that was happening. They called it crime and high crime areas and all these different things, right? So, shit. They're showing like shit. The National Guard couldn't even protect these niggas. Next to the White House, a shooter supposedly came in and still shot 2 National Guard members by the White House, the most heavily guarded place in Washington, D.C., and now more so than ever, because now you have what? National Guard members on the surrounding outskirts, more visual, more eyes on the scene, and 2 members still got shot near the White House? Come on, man. The National Guard cannot maintain control. Federal forces can be deployed. But which forces? That's the question. You see that? It says A, active duty military, U.S. Army, Marines, Air Force, Navy. These can only be used for law enforcement roles under special circumstances because of the Post-Comitius Act. Let's see. What is the what does it say? What is the post? You're asking about the Post-Commission Act, often misheard as Post-Comitius Act. The Post-Comitius Act is a federal law that limits the U.S. military from acting as law enforcement inside the United States. It stops the military from making arrests, searching or seizing property, controlling civilians, enforcing domestic laws. Who does it apply to? U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force. Why does this law exist? To prevent the federal government from using the military as police force against the citizens. But we understand that this is coming to an end. We're coming to the point that this is not going to be a thing. It's going to be it's done away with. Like it says, important exceptions. The Insurrection Act. Trump has been using that word since he's been in office in January. He's been using this word loosely. Insurrection, sedition, even against his own government. It says the big exception to Post-Comitius. If the president invokes the Insurrection Act, right, which he can do, has been done before, active duty military can be used to restore order during extreme riots, rebellions, government breakdown. It's the only time the military can act like police. National Guard, not restricted. The law does not apply to the National Guard when it is under state control. Governor, so the Guard can help police enforce curfews, control crowds, etc. Okay, so you have a better understanding on that. The Post-Comitius Act of 1878 is a federal law that limits the U.S. military from acting as law enforcement. I just read that. Okay, let's go back up. So A, active duty military, bro. See that? It says if the crisis is not law enforcement related, like disaster response, other federal agencies can be deployed instead of combat troops such as FEMA, U.S. Coast Guards. All right, let's see. One more question. When does United Nation troops have to step Let's see what they give us. United Nations troops do not automatically step in during crisis inside a country. UN military forces can only be deployed under very specific legal. When UN troops can step in, can only be deployed when all three of the following conditions are met. The country itself requests help. The United Nations Security Council approves a mission. The crisis meets UN requirements. Civil war or major internal conflict. So you saying the UN can be distributed if civil war or major internal, like meaning internal within the city or within the country, conflict when a government cannot control the violence or both sides want international peace. Isn't this what DJ Trump is pushing? Peace. It says genocide or crimes against humanity. Is that not the words that he used in his speeches? Crimes against humanity, genocide. That's what that's what he said. These are words that he uses. Civil war, internal. The problem is within. Right. This is what he says, bro. They're setting the stage right before your face. If mass atrocities are occurring and the world agrees intervention is necessary. All right. The UN government could never request it. All right, so there you have it. I just wanted to see what they gave us on that. So you see what's going on. It says Trump administration sending 500 more National Guard troops to D.C. after shooting. 500 more troops, bro. Where these niggas gonna go? Huh? Is all of them gonna be surrounding that White House? No. The 500 additional service members will join roughly 2,220 troops who were deployed in D.C. as of Sunday morning. God damn. Sunday he deployed 2,200 troops, and now he's added an additional 500. So that's basically 3,000 troops within the last couple of days. That includes 900 members of the D.C. National Guard and more than 1,200 members of several state guards, according to a press release from the Military Joint Task Force, District of Columbia. All right. Yo, bro. Now, what's significant about Washington? Washington, I'm going to show you. What? I already know the answer, but we're going to just, for edification, what was Washington, D.C. called before its current name? Let's see if they give us the truth. The truth and nothing but the truth. Should say Rome. Man, stop, bro. See? Chat be going off. Washington. Let's make them tell us. Washington, D.C. was once called Rome. It was called Rome, Maryland. Let's see. Was once called, there you go. Was once called Rome, Maryland, or just Rome is partially correct, man. But it's a bit more complicated than saying Washington was Rome. What is true? Rome was the name of the tract of land in the area. It says in 1663, a property owned by a settler named Francis Pope was recorded as Rome. That tract, about 400 acres, lay in what later became part of the land where Washington, D.C. is built. See how they play semantics, nigga? Just say it was called Rome, Maryland. Right? That's what the facts state. Okay? Part of the land became Washington, D.C. once included a property called Rome. The founding city was planned and named Washington in the District of Columbia. And the Rome name lives on as a historical footnote, not on an official former name of the capital city. So Rome, Maryland, all right, it was a part of the landmass that the capital was built on. That's not by coincidence. We read it. If anything in politics happens, believe it happened that way. It was planned. It was not an accident. Okay? So when you read this, it says this will only stiffen Now this is from Hegseth, the head of the military, the Department of Defense, or Department of War now. All right, under President Trump, he's the second in command. If something happened to Trump, he gives the orders to the army. Okay, so you can understand. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. Rome. That's what they're trying to do. And in Rome, in Washington, D.C. is the capital, and it starts there. Okay. This is another way that they can bring in martial law. Like the scriptures say, this is 2nd Esdras. This is 2nd Esdras 15. And 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people, right, that's what's nigh. Destruction, the sword, unaliveness, at the max. And one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. That's what you're getting ready to witness. That's what you're witnessing here. Why is the troops being deployed? Because you had an armed man, what they appear to be an armed man or whatever, which I believe he was staged, he was set up, because it says here, this is another way that they can bring in martial law, lock down things more tighter. When you got military and police force being touched by the civilians, that's a serious matter, especially like the cruel Lord being in office. This is a serious matter. You think this nigga playing? He ain't playing, because the Lord ain't playing. The Lord is making this dude do this. Trump says U.S. and he's just a face. So how much more, man? Trump says U.S. must re-examine Afghan immigrants who came when Biden was president. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden. There you go. At first it was the Northern Kingdom. See, now they move there. See, now it's not just the tribes, they're moving to each individual, which now the plan can actually speed up, because it's not just a particular or targeted group anymore. It's everybody, which was the main focus, the main focus is Israelites, but to have the whole world in subjection in this new world, because they got the world in subjection now, but they need the world they need that subjection, that servitude, to transition into the new world that they're creating, merging man with machine, the digital age, the infrastructure of this new way of living based off technical means, man. Okay, so the sword is the gun, and it's being used in the power of these other people's hands, man. It says verse 6, 2nd Esdras 15 and 16, for there should be sedition. Sedition is an uprising. All right. What is sedition? Means encouraging rebel against the lawful. It says sedition means encouraging people to rebel against the lawful authority of a government. Sedition is speech, writing, or actions that are intended to provoke resistance, rebellion, or violence against the government. See? And this is what you're seeing right now. Sedition. There should be sedition among men, invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes, the White House, the president, and so forth. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man should desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What's the result? Martial law. Can martial law be declared if suspicion of terror attack? Let's see what they give us, because this is ran by the tiny caps now, so they changed a lot of shit since it first came out. Yes, martial law can be declared during or after a major terror attack. So during or after, a man should desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city should be troubled, the houses should be destroyed, and men should be afraid. You see, because they're not going to be able to maneuver through each state freely without the checking in or the approval of military forces. And the only way to get in certain things like government buildings, certain things to continue your way of living, you're going to have that tiny technology. to have access into the inner city that once was the outer city. You see, so you can understand the normal way of life. The normal way of life, they're shrinking it to a small denominator. And in order for you to enter into that small denominator, you must have access to the whole, which is the mark of the beast. Okay? And that's what this is all leading to. This is not about nothing else but control, total control. So we're going to see what comes out of this. So breaking news. I believe it was staged just to get a cost and a reaction out of the people. And what I mean by people, I mean the civilians, but mainly the government officials. We're going to see what Trump does after this. We already seen he fucking sent 3,000 extra troops to Washington, D.C. so far since Sunday. 500 more today. And we're going to see. All right, you already had the CK assassination. This is all within the span of months, man. Things are moving fast. And things is picking up, man, really, really fast, man. So, Lord willing, this quick lesson was edifying. I'd like to give all honor and glory from the praise and worship to our power. YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Double honors to our apostle, the bishop, the great millstone, rule well, peace, citation to the hopeful elect. Till next time, Mwafla Babo, Babo, Shalom.